recently tried suite class on Princess Cruises' most popular ship, Enchanted Princess. Most cruise lines are now trying to offer a first-class ship-within-a-ship concept for prices that start at 5 to 6 times the cost of an interior cabin. On most Princess ships, it's sort of a hybrid approach with a small private lounge, the only dedicated space for suite guests, but with a lot of perks in the cabin and at restaurants throughout the ship. I've been fortunate to experience the suite life on other cruise lines like Celebrity, Norwegian, and Holland America. In this episode of The Chill Cruiser, I'll explore how Princess's suite offering compares to those lines and whether it's worth the extra cost. Hey cruisers, Andrew from Toronto, Canada here. Welcome to The Chill Cruiser, where I look at cruising from a chill perspective. Today I'm going to review the suite class experience on my recent cruise on Enchanted Princess. I was sailing with a friend who was offered a suite cabin based on her casino play on a previous Princess cruise. I've been very fortunate to be able to experience the suite class offerings on other cruise lines like the Haven on Norwegian Cruise Line, the Retreat on Celebrity, and a Neptune Suite on Holland America. Each cruise line approaches suites a little differently, and today I'll explore suite class the Princess way. The suite experience on Princess's newest ships is different from the rest of the fleet, so I'll point out the differences as I go. Since suites are at a price point of $5,000+ per person for a 7-day cruise, and the bar has been set very high by the suite classes on other lines, my expectations were much higher than a regular cabin. I'll review my experience in terms of the categories I use in my ship reviews, like amenities and food, but I'll start with access. On some cruise lines, the suite experience starts before embarkation day with a call or an email from a concierge with details on how you can make special requests for your cabin and book specialty restaurants or shore excursions. That was not the case on Princess, where the pre-cruise experience was the same as every other cabin category. Princess also didn't have a dedicated check-in experience and lounge for suites like Norwegian or Celebrity. So we went through the main security screening and check-in process in Port Everglades. I've heard that a very select number of suite guests are invited to a premium off-site check-in facility and get shuttled right to a special boarding area at the pier, but there is no clear criteria for who gets invited. Luckily, when we arrived at the port around noon, the process was very smooth, and we were on the ship in just a few minutes. Princess does offer suite guests priority access to tender boats during the cruise and priority disembarkation at the end of the cruise. Overall, I'd rate suite access 2.5 out of 5 stars. Our cabin wasn't ready yet, so we headed to the suite lounge, which on Enchanted Princess is located on deck 14 aft, surrounded by cabins. It's a fairly small, windowless room with couches and lounge chairs. There's a concierge, a small snack bar, and a self-serve coffee machine. There's also a bar set up in the afternoon and evenings. This is similar to the suite lounge on Holland America ships, but modest compared to the large, airy, natural light-filled lounges in Norwegian's Haven and Celebrity's Retreat. Princess addressed this in their new Sphere-class ships, where the suite lounge is a grand 2-floor space with a beautiful aft view. A few nights every cruise, they host theme parties in the lounge and take over the adjoining wedding chapel to free up more space. We dropped in on Pirate Night, where they had small appetizers spread out with a steel drum player. One of the exclusive perks for suite guests is a complimentary dinner and a specialty restaurant on embarkation day. Since we weren't able to snag any reservations in the Crown Grill Steakhouse prior to the cruise, we were hoping we'd get one through the suite concierge. That did not end up being the case. The concierge said Crown Grill was completely sold out for the entire cruise and that there was nothing he could do. I found this strange for 2 reasons. One being that I've always had luck getting a Crown Grill reservation on embarkation day just by going to the host as soon as I board the ship. Second, because reservations are usually held back for guests in suites and high rollers in the casino. For whatever reason, this was not the case on this cruise, even though my friend was both a suite guest and a high roller. No matter how hard I pushed, the answer was no. I was celebrating my birthday on that cruise, and even after playing that card, the concierge couldn't get us a reservation on any night, which was disappointing. In an ironic twist, one reservation the concierge was able to get was into the Sanctuary, which is a beautiful private sun deck at the top of the ship that's usually much harder to get into than the Steakhouse. He helped us score a cabana one afternoon, which in my opinion offers the best sun deck experience at sea. You can find a link to my video about the Sanctuary in the description. Speaking of sun decks, one amenity most Princess ships don't offer is a private sun deck for suite guests. The Haven and Retreat offer a private sun deck on every ship, usually with its own pool, bar, and hot tub. This is another area Princess addressed on its Sphere-class ships by converting the space usually reserved for the sanctuary into a pool deck exclusively for guests in a premium Sanctuary Collection cabin. When I was on Sun Princess last year, a crew member told me that Princess plans to eventually roll this model out to the rest of the fleet, but that isn't something Princess has announced yet. That sun deck is much more important on Norwegian ships since their Lido deck can get insanely crowded. It's less of an issue on Princess ships like Enchanted since they have multiple pools throughout the ship, including an adults-only pool with a bar that doesn't get nearly as crowded. Another common suite amenity Princess doesn't offer is a dedicated restaurant for suite guests with its own premium menu. They do offer perks in other dining rooms that I'll cover shortly when I get to food, but they pale in comparison with the suite dining rooms in the Haven or Retreat. This is something Princess also addressed on its Sphere-class ships, where all guests in a premium Sanctuary Collection cabin have access to a separate dining room with its own menu. Overall, I'd rate suite amenities 2 stars out of 5. Our cabin was located on the opposite end of the ship and several decks up from the suite lounge. Princess doesn't cluster its suite class rooms in an area close to the lounge like on Norwegian. We had booked the entry-level suite called the Vista Suite, and we were impressed. It had a beautiful bathroom with a full bath, dedicated shower, and a separate powder room, but not upgraded bath products. There was a ton of storage in the entry area in the hallway. The living area was a nice size with a minibar area, small living room, and a large desk. The balcony was also larger with cushioned teak deck chairs and a table. On a different cruise, my friends were staying in a Penthouse suite, so I got to take a peek in their cabin, which is essentially a larger version of the Vista Suite, with a larger living space that can be separated from the bedroom with a curtain. Interestingly, the balcony felt much smaller. Another sweet perk is a one-time minibar setup with alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages of your choice. Our stateroom attendant said we needed to call room service to order what we wanted, which we did twice over several days, but our order never arrived. It was a much better experience for my friend in the Penthouse suite. Their attendant just asked what they wanted, and it was in their room within an hour. When we mentioned this to the suite concierge, our order was waiting when we returned to the room. One small thing missing from both suite types that you would find in most cruise line suites was an espresso maker. Hit subscribe and watch out for full tours of both cabins coming soon. Princess does offer several other in-suite cabin perks like afternoon canapes available upon request, complimentary laundry, and an expanded breakfast room service menu that we took full advantage of. We really enjoyed having breakfast on the balcony with the large table. One perk we appreciated that's available to all guests was being able to use our drink package when we order drinks through room service. This is definitely something you won't find in the Haven or the Retreat, where even if you have the drink package, they still charge you for drinks ordered to your room. Overall, I'd rate suite cabins 4 out of 5 stars. Let's move on to food. Princess Suite guests have the option to enjoy an elevated breakfast experience every morning in Crown Grill, of all places, which I tried once and really enjoyed. I just wish I could have gone back for dinner. Another so-called perk is access to the reserved collection area of the main dining room, which is supposed to have a higher level of service as well as special menu items on top of the regular menu. When we went there the first night, there was no one there to seat us, so we ended up just sitting in the regular part of the main dining room. We ended up dining in the reserved collection area for a sea day lunch a few days later, which was nice, but the menu is exactly the same as the main dining room. There were still upcharges for items like a seafood salad or a lobster roll, which would be included in the suite restaurants of other lines. One very special experience that used to be included for suite guests on Enchanted and Discovery Princess was their unique specialty restaurant called 360, but it was recently eliminated as a suite perk. I still highly recommend the experience and it's worth the $140 cover charge, but I think it should still be included for suite guests considering the price point. That or eliminate the upcharges on the reserved collection menu. Hit subscribe and watch out for my review of the 360 experience coming soon. With all that in mind, I would rate suite dining 3 out of 5 stars. Overall, we enjoyed the suite experience on Enchanted Princess, but it definitely fell down in a few areas. Although it's on par with Holland America, it doesn't really compete with the Haven or the Retreat. As you probably noticed, the suite experience on the new Sphere-class ships is much more competitive, but I'm not a fan of Sphere-class. I sailed on Sun Princess last year in a regular cabin and liked the food in the cabins, but since the layout was confusing and key venues are too small, it was one of my least favorite ships of all time. You can find a link to my review of Sun Princess in the description. There's also a link to my full review of Enchanted Princess, which I think is one of the best ships in the Princess fleet. If you're curious about the Haven experience, you can check out my full review here. Thank you for watching, and happy cruising.